This is, in my opinion, a very exciting conversation today, especially because of these two guys. And if you notice, I didn't receive the email of the shirts. I didn't use the uniform today. So we're talking about something that is crucial, and everybody talks about it, but certainly not everybody has achieved it. How do we, by orchestrating our supply chain management activities, deliver a better experience to customers? And that's the topic that these two distinguished people will help us to build on. I will just moderate and ask questions. So let's get started. My first question will direct it to you, Michael. Why don't you tell us how you are addressing this chronic problem?
Perfect. Hey, and a couple of things. With Graphic Packaging, we're a paper and packaging company in Atlanta, Georgia, and we've got a lot of customers out today in the audience and here. So thanks for your business. We appreciate it. We started thinking about it. I don't know if you're familiar with lean thinking. It always starts with a customer and goes back from the customer, which is a little bit different than a flow map. So we started there and said, how do we then start with the customer's dock? When we landed the customer's dock with the right product at the right time, and then how do we go back to the right, I think about it. So we really built that foundation using the lean flow. And at that point, it was in the company just new to the company, and we wanted to go re-energize. We were a FourKites customer, but we wanted to re-energize that. So we worked really hard with our carriers and our team to re-energize that point. So the customer feels it when they can see visibility and he gets to the dock on time. And so it was pretty critical. We worked hard with our carriers and our team. And that was the big focus, really, from a lean perspective, because, you know, one of our core pillars of the company is innovation. And so for your logistics or supply chain, you know, we're making great packaging, we're replacing plastic. How do we innovate? And so we said we can innovate by really, really affecting the customer delivery. And that makes a big difference. We make beautiful packaging, but if I don't get it to y'all, or if we don't get it to y'all when you need to put your product around it, then I don't care how beautiful the packaging is, it doesn't work. So we just turned that mindset and said, hey, logistics and supply chain folks, y'all play a part in innovation.
That's very interesting. You're using the lean concept at the end, starting there, and then condition the supply chain backwards really driving the experience to a different level.
Yeah.
And you mentioned visibility there. This is a beautiful concept also, because we forget about that piece. You know, we deliver and okay, we deliver on time, we keep going for the next order, no?
Yeah.
And this is a good example of keeping in touch with the customer in a different way. So, Dinakar, can you help me to describe your customer experience as it is today? You are in the pharma business. It's a very complex in general. And the type of products that you deliver are very somewhat delicate. Mm-hmm. You have been good at balancing the customer thing, the regulatory aspect, and still deliver a delight to this customer. Can you explain to us how do you do that?
Sure, yeah. Thank you for that question. Vertex Pharmaceuticals focuses primarily on cell and gene therapy and specialized pharma. So for us, a patient is not just a customer, they're more than a customer. Specifically around cell and gene therapy, we are transporting patient cells from treatment centers to manufacturing sites, and they're global sites. So we need to transport them within 48 hours, for example. And there are a lot of regulations around transporting these human cells from treatment centers, mostly hospitals, to manufacturing sites to genetically edit these cells. Some of them are, a large portion of our cells require temperature at 2 to 8 degrees, strict temperature, and what we call chain of identity in the industry. So, for example, my cells need to be maintained separately and transported to manufacturing site, and edited and manufactured and maintain the identity separately, isolated that way. So for that reason, we have a regulatory process that ensures that we maintain the temperature, we maintain the chain of identity, and we maintain chain of custody while we go through various hubs within the supply chain and logistics network. So regulations are very important for us, and for us, we don't. A patient is not just a customer; they're more than a customer. The way we approach to customer experience is precision logistics. We want to make sure that the cells are transported without temperature excursions, without any non-compliance to regulations, and deliver within a 48-hour period. So that's very important for us to make sure we are compliant to that. And this is where visibility comes into picture. So for us, the way we see, we in the industry, we call it is every vial has a name. So the way we see it is, it's a patient, it's a family. Sometimes most of our patients are children, so it's a future. So visibility is important. And the way we see it is precision logistics is very important to ensure the customer experience is
very interesting. In many cases, supply chain practitioners like us, everyone in this room, we see regulation as a barrier. It seems like you're taking it to the other side of the equation. Like because of that, I can create this precision supply chain management idea that delivers exactly what they need at the point they need it.
That's correct.
And that's really very, very, I applaud that effort from the company and from you. You've been doing this for how long?
I've been in pharma for over 15 years.
Okay.
At Vertex, I've been lately with Vertex for the last 5 years.
Very good. Very, 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 very telling. And I see that these are two different type of industries, totally different type of setup, supply chain design and delivery and customer target and all of that. Yet the principle of elevating the experience by supply chain synchronization is totally valid. And sometimes we don't see that through very, very easily. So it's a capability that we need to go for. Let me stay with you, Dinakar, once more. You mentioned in pharmaceuticals, temperature control, supply chain custody, and all of that is extremely important. And how do you integrate technology into it, visibility technology, and how do you think about AI as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we transport patient cells or finished drug product, we transport them in specialized containers. We call them cold chain packaging. These packaging solutions are validated. And in addition to the validated solution, what we do is we add a data logger that is included in every sample. And it's basically collecting data and telemetry information about temperature, humidity, exposure to light, and also capturing any X-ray radiation. A large portion of our product cannot be X-rayed. These are human cells. X-ray deteriorates the cells. So the data logger collects the information. And so we have visibility to the conditions of the shipment through these data loggers. When we see any data that's outside the range, for example, these human cells needs to be maintained between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. And when we do see temperature excursions, it happens occasionally, primarily because these cells are not, cannot be X-rayed. So TSA and security usually opens the box to see the contents to make sure that can be transported through passenger flights. So we do notice some excursions. Sometimes we also notice that the 2 boxes for a patient get separated. So we do get alerts from that. So a very good example is a package where an airline pilot have decided to take one of the 2 packages with them, and FourKites system has notified us that the patient cells were separated, and we were quickly able to react to it, and our exception workflows have taken place. So it was there's no delay in patient treatment in this case.
So what were you doing before having the tools of FourKite?
It was reactive. So before the visibility platforms like FourKites, we would get that information after the fact. So we would receive the first package at the manufacturing site, and then that's when we would realize that the shipment had 2 packages and only one of them made it. So that would be very reactive. In this case, we were able to get that information ahead, work through our logistics service providers, and get the 2 packages at the manufacturing site at the same time. So before, it was very reactive, and we'll have to adjust our manufacturing accordingly.
So you really achieved this level of performance by incorporating those tools into the process.
That's correct, yeah.
That is fantastic. I guess you have some similar situations like that in a totally different environment. Would you tell us about it?
Yeah, so when we, when we think about our packaging and where it needs to get at that point, we're focused on that lean thinking or that flow. And so we kind of built a program we call Operation Outbound, which really starts at the customer's dock and moves left. And you talked about data and AI. It's critical that they see themselves because real people's lives depend on it. We want to see ourselves because we know that as our customers are waiting on that packaging, they're not holding a ton of packaging in the back. They're marrying packaging and production. And so, a different error or what happens in defect for them and us, but nonetheless, it's where we want to get to. And so we started thinking, how do I see ourselves? How do we see ourselves from the customer dock all the way to our dock? And so we built Operation Outbound around data and that view of ourselves, because then we know where to go hunt and go get better. And if you think about lean flow thinking, it talks about waste and non-value added activity. And so how do you go identify the waste that customers don't pay for and that keeps you from delivering the way you want to deliver? So when I think about visibility, where we said we started the customer's dock and visibility, we've all been there. Customer purchasing agent is curious where their truck is. So calls the GPI sales agent, who calls the GPI customer service, who calls Addie Centino, who's in the audience, her team, where's the truck? She calls the broker calls the driver calls all the way back up that chain, and could be multiple hours, and they might say, yeah, we're an hour out, we're right on time. And you're like, dang, I just burned up a lot of people's time across both organizations just to figure out we're good. So then we said, well, how do I get that visibility to that point? How do I put that data where it needs to be? And then we're gonna go beyond that to the left onto our dock using Vision AI and some other areas. So I said, you know what, let's think about this. We actually put the FourKites link in our SAP delivery. So our customer service agent, who might be first or second in line when they get the call, they live in SAP, they live in the order. They just click the link, and the link tells them, 45 minutes out, going to be there actually at 3:30, and I know you wanted them there at 4, we're good. And then we also send that out with a customer email that says, here's a link. You don't even need FourKites. You can just click that link. So then we start to say, okay, I'm reducing that non-value added. Customers don't pay for that non-value added activity. So you start there, and then because we start on the customer dock, we're going to go back to the left. We're tracing and tracking the truck. Now I'm going to go into our yard. How many trucks do I have in the yard? Am I efficient? And then I'm going to go on the loading dock, and I'm going to say, what am I doing that's non-value added in that loading dock? So I think about your yard. I don't know about y'all, but we have several yards where people go out and they walk very dangerously in the yard, and they look at the number of trailers they have. We want them to be safe. They turn their back, and as soon as they do, that report is no longer valid. Trucks come and go behind them. Then they go to their office, they fill out the spreadsheet, they email on it, and it can be 75% accurate. So we're thinking to ourselves, okay, that's non-value added activity. Like the trailer reports by people or non-value added activity. So how do we put AI and computer vision into that? Because that doesn't lie. It knows where it is all the time. It tells you where it is. It actually directs the driver. And so then we're going to go all the way back left into our dock. And into our dock, I think, is the most critical piece when we talk about customer delivery. I know it doesn't sound right. It's like, yeah, but I know if my dwell time is this, my percent on time skyrockets. Yeah. And if my dwell time increases, my chance of being on time go way down. And the value that the customers pay for us is deliver on time. And so how do we do that? So really, this Operation Outbound, the visibility, it's just starting a view of the world of how we see ourselves. And can you see yourselves real time? And can you then deliver better for the customers? And I'm convinced we can. And I think about scanning, I think about walking the truck yard, they're not safe. I want that loader, really I want that loader just safely and securely loading the load. If they're having to make sure and check and scan, it's non-value added activity and defects result from that. So, you know, that's kind of the vision that we're thinking about, but it started with that vision of the visibility, right? How do we get visibility? How do we put that information into the places where the people who need the information? The customer, and then our first line, so that we avoid that 12 hours of just misery. We've all been there. Oh, and by the way, it's a critical customer and a critical shipment, so now leadership's involved. So now you're like, hey, it's Michael, and you know, poor Addie's right there. Hey, I was just calling about that shipment. She's like, I don't know, we've got 17 calls and 4 emails out. I'll give you an update when we get one. One more person. So, you know, that's the vision of how we see ourselves. And then I think about, you know, the agentic AI, which I'm very intrigued about because, again, we have a very lean team. So I think about waking up and I go, how do I make sure this lean team is only focused on 100% value-added activities? Probably not possible. But maybe today we're 50-50 value, non-value. I want to make that 80-20 or 90-10. And these tools and visibility and this AI gets us there. And so I think that's how we think about delivery and how we think about transforming it. And then guess what? We're innovating with unique packaging. I'm going to sell GPI a little bit. Okay, I went the other day and I got my Vital peptides at Costco. It used to be completely plastic. Now it's a Bordeaux. It's all paper. It's fantastic, right? So how do we then innovate on the logistics side? That's how we innovate on the logistics side. We get visibility, we keep people safe, and we see ourselves. We know where to get better.
That's good. Michael, you keep emphasizing the backwards, you know, from the endpoint backwards. This is beautiful. And also there is a genuine conversation about finding the problems in a proactive way. So problems are not noise, problems are opportunities. That's the way I read what you're saying. There is a fantastic learning there. We tend to, well, we supply chain guys love to have problems because we solve them. And we are the best solvers. And but by doing this approach, you are solving before the fact or before the heat comes. That to me is a great detail of your answer. Is that what you mean when you use terminology?
I think and you think about if you think about our TMS team, the value they add is finding the right carrier at the right price to deliver quality. The value is not finding out where a shipment is or why they're late. That's great because it helps us, but that's not where we want the people's focus, right? So I think about it, this is like an enabler. This is a people investor. This is not a people replacer. This is like, you're really good at what you do. And if you're filling out a spreadsheet, I don't know, there's no customer that's paying for my team to fill out a spreadsheet. They're paying to deliver on time with really great quality.
That's correct.
And so that's what I think about. How do we get out of that and into this view of the world where we see ourselves very well and we know what to go do. If I don't have a mirror, I tell this all the time, if I don't have a mirror and I continue to eat those beautiful donuts that are out there, one day I'm going to look in the mirror and go, maybe that wasn't the best decision. But as soon as I see myself, I know what to go fix. And it's no different for us from this Operation Outbound. We want to see ourselves. We want to know where to go hunt. So that, again, that's why we started with the customer. Yeah, because we win when we deliver to the customers on time with good quality.
It's beautiful. You're trying to look for the hidden value that is there. And once you identify it, you bring it up. You mentioned before in a conversation we had camera and AI applications. How far are you into that, and what is going on there?
Yeah, it's fantastic, actually. So we've got a couple of pilots going where we're using cameras to identify bad pallets where we're looking at our loading dock. If we got checkers. I mean, we all have checkers on the loading dock because one time we had a defect. So the answer was, go put 3 people and double check you're putting the right stuff in the truck. Now cameras do that. Not only do they know it, you give them the load plan. They know the batch numbers. They check it for you because they're taking a picture of the tag. They're giving a red signal when it's the wrong one. And right? So we're looking at that. We've done a pilot there. We think we're about to get the business case to just take those pictures. And then, by the way, I have this vision of the world where we go all the way back to, I'll talk all day, so where we go all the way back to the ERP and we do post-goods issue, right? We move it in there and we don't even have to do a post-goods issue. We can just kick it off. The last one goes on there and I kick an invoice out.
That's good. That's good. I guess you also into exploring and implementing AI in your operations. How is that going, and what are the most promising solutions in AI? Everybody talks about solutions, AI solutions, and before it becomes a buzzword, which maybe is already, what are the ones that you believe are really delivering the promise?
Yeah, visibility will, for us, the way I see it is, visibility is very important for us. But visibility tells us where the shipment has been or where it is now.
Correct.
It doesn't tell us forward-looking, meaning what could potentially be the issue, any weather-related issues, or a large portion of our shipments are shipping from Saudi Arabia to U.S. through passenger flights, and it has a connecting flight potentially in Europe. So some of the things that we are looking for is warning systems, early warning systems for potential issues. And the way we are approaching it is looking at investing in digital control towers that would warn us on potential issues related to a particular shipment. So we have enough time to react to it and solve the problem before it impacts the patient. Right? And the way I see technology is making the hard part invisible. So we are looking at AI to see how we can use it. We don't directly interact with logistics service providers. We are one layer removed. But however, we think that for us, digital control towers is a way that we get visibility, and we also can look at data on global weather patterns and airport conditions, and then solve problems that way before it impacts our patients.
That's fantastic. I wish we had 2 more hours to talk about that. I'd like to use the remaining time to probably ask you guys what would you advise to our audience here to do in this area, synchronizing supply chain for a better customer?
There's 2 things. I would say just create a strategy, a visual strategy that people can see. And then there is no complete solution. We've tried hard. There is no one solution. So create that strategy and then pick the areas where you're going to get the most value and ease of implementation and get some wins in your belt and get some cameras, get some stuff, get some good tracking. And then you can build on that because you're not going to build Rome in a day. There's a Waffle House restaurant where I'm from. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it. They got great hash browns. If you're not careful, you can get scattered, smothered, and covered. I just like hash browns. So be careful because you can get really scattered out there with all the technology. Just focus in, have a good strategy and focus.
Fantastic. How about you, Dave?
In addition to what Michael had mentioned, I would say bring people along. This is a lesson learned in our case, right? Bring people along, show leaders what's possible within your company. And I think there will be more success in adopting the technology. I think listening to the previous speaker, the biggest challenge is people like me who has been in the industry for over 25 years. And there's a lot of us in pharma where they don't understand AI, and AI is scary. So bring people in, start simple, bring people in, and maybe prioritize and understand where the important value is for your customers. If for pharma, it's more visibility and preventing a potential delay. So we were looking at FourKites for giving us the visibility, and we started looking at what else FourKites can provide us in terms of digital control tower.
If anybody has a doubt on how powerful these technologies are, I mean, I'm glad we recorded this thing.
Yeah.
We can put it out there for everybody to look at because really it makes a difference, and it makes the industry a bigger contributor to prosperity and health and service, and really it helps us to be really contributors to society. So thank you so much for your time and for your experience. This was fantastic.
Thank you, Gustavo.